welcome back to my channel. I hope you are all doing well. This is my very final Halloween 2021 creation and I love it. We all know I love a gnome, okay? But you would have already seen the thumbnail. I had to go wizardy, so I have made some air dry clay wizard gnomes. If that's a word. Wizard gnomes. Anyway, this is part of a huge collaboration. Around 6 weeks ago, I put out an open invite over on my Instagram page. Anybody who makes anything out of anything was welcome to join in the fun for this Halloween collaboration. Now, all YouTube videos should be out by now and everyone would have already posted on Instagram. So if anyone was a YouTuber and got involved, I will be linking their videos down below so you can go and check them out. I cannot wait. We've got everything from woodwork, Jesmonite, sewing, clay. We've got it all. And over on Instagram, there is a hashtag CCC Halloween Collab 2021. So go check out that hashtag. I'm going to put it on the screen somewhere here and in the description box below. So you can go and check that out, and everyone's work will be in there by the end of the 30th of October. So I'm so excited for this collaboration. There was over 20 of us when everyone first signed up. There were over 20, so that's a lot of work. So be sure after my video to go ahead and check out everyone's work over on Instagram, and also I will link videos down below. And that's enough from me and my last video for Halloween. Let's get going. So the main body of my wizard gnomes are going to be these styrofoam or polystyrene cones. I got these from the works. It's £1 for a pack of 2. Now I've had these since last Christmas, but I'm also using my Das air dry clay. I just find this the best air dry clay. I'm also going to be using some foil because I don't have much clay left, so I'm trying to work out how best to use the clay where I don't have enough to make all 3. Now, you can draw on your cone if you want to, like you just saw me doing there, but I ended up kind of not following that template. The first thing I'm going to do is bulk out my polystyrene cones. I want the least clay the better because I know I don't have enough for 3. So I'm creating some kind of hat rims, coat edges, all of these things that are going to give me some depth, give me some contrast between the cone and the clay, and also it gives me a base on which to work. So this hat rim, for example, it's perfect. It will be completely covered in clay, but if I was just going to make that out of clay, I wouldn't have enough clay to do it. I really am on my very last little bit of clay. So I'm using my hot glue here to wrap the tin foil. This is standard kitchen tin foil. I'm using my hot glue to wrap it around the rim. Now you can either do what I did and flatten it out, or you can glue it on like this here, use your hot glue fingers and squish it flat. So whichever way works best for you. Then I'm gonna wrap the rest of the hats in tin foil purely because I want my wizard hats to be longer, taller, pointier, and also floppy at the top. And using tin foil is going to allow me to wrap the clay around the tin foil. Really, the tin foil is just, it's making it so that I don't have to use so much clay. If you saw my Christmas gnomes last year, I used so much clay, they took a week to dry. So here is me. This is how I'm using the clay. Minimal. So it's a 2-hand job right now. I'm just holding it in my right hand, pinching tiny little bits off with my left hand and squishing it, smidging it, pushing it and shoving it into the tin foil so that I can kind of get away with least clay as possible. I'm still calling them air dry clay because they pretty much are. It's the clay that makes them, but again, you have to bear in mind that the more clay you use, the longer they take to dry. Somebody did ask me once why I used polystyrene, and you could make them out of clay, just clay, but you'd be looking at around about 3 weeks, I'd say, for them to dry completely. So once you've molded your clay around the foil and around the hat, just here now I've decided I want a really floppy hat. So once you've done that and you've kind of got your shapes, you need to take some time molding it with your hands, using water to get the shape, and trying as much as possible not for cracks to show. And yeah, that's the tricky part. Just use lots of water to smooth those hats down, or to get the end result that you require. This clay does not crack, but I did see cracks over the tin foil, so I don't know, there's pros and cons to using the tin foil for the rims of the hats, because at one point I definitely could see some cracks, but again, it's not the clay, it's the tin foil coming through. So here I'm creating the edge of the wizard's coat. So this is where that kind of stereotypical wizard coat would have the edging. Guys, what's the word I'm looking for? The rim of the coat? The edge of the coat? I don't know. Anyway, this is what this is, okay? So I used tin foil really so I didn't have to use so much clay. Now, the beards. You can do the beards any way you want, but for me it's just so easy to roll it flat, cut a template and show it up against your gnome so you kind of know where you're going. And I knew I had to cut a little bit more off, and here we go. Now the trick to this is shove it on, like really shove it on. It's gonna look bad before it looks good, so I'm just using my air dry clay tool here to shove the edges down. Again, it's gonna look terrible, but we're gonna go back in afterwards and tidy it up. What we want to do is make sure that this clay sticks to that polystyrene forever. And here we are using some water. You can just go back in, smooth it over, and yeah, take time. Just so you know, I had 3 hours of footage and I've edited this down to 15 minutes. So if you're wondering why it's going so fast, it's because no one's gonna sit through 3 hours of footage. But here you see me taking my time to smooth it down, then take a little bit more time. I like the little beard flick at the end, so I'm going real slow here just to get that flick right at the end, because I just think that is such a cute little feature. Then I'm going to use my tool again. These tools are cheap, they're from the works, so they're really not professional clay tools, just to score and engrave and mark my beard. These are just representative of beard hairs, and again it's very similar to how I did my Christmas gnomes last year. If you haven't seen that, like I said, I will link it. I used a lot more clay in those videos, but yeah, just go along until you are happy with the pattern, until you're confident that that looks like a beard. I think it looks like a beard, but anyway, these videos, these days, honestly was about 4 days apart. So the hats dried and then 2 days later I came back in to do this part, so it was days apart to make these. But with this one, I just thought it would be really cute. You know, the beards that are like tied and then you've got a little ponytail at the bottom, you know, the ones. I really wanted to try one, so I did the same thing again. I rolled it out, cut my template out, and then I just spent some time molding it in place. Now this is 2 days later. Everything is dry. Kind of cheated a bit and put them on my radiator one night. It got cold, I put the heating on. Figured I'd just sit them on there and help them dry out. What I'm going to do now is coat them all, give them a really generous coat of gesso. This is acrylic primer paint. The one I've got is super thick, so I just went ahead and I gave all 3 a really nice base coat. This is going to help me to paint them. Now I'm going for moody colours. I'm in an R-ing about colours. I didn't want it to be just purple and black, because to me I think of wizards and witches and I think purple and black. One thing I will say, it was definitely harder to paint the polystyrene than it would have been if I covered the whole thing in clay. When I cover it in clay, I just don't feel like it's as hard, but it was definitely harder to paint natural polystyrene. Even though it had a layer of gesso on it, I still found it harder. But yeah, the paint job is what I like to call rustic, and I'm gonna pretend for the purposes of the video that it was done on purpose this way. But we all know I'm not a painter. This colour scheme actually was my favourite. It was burnt umber and brown, and there was something so earthy about it. I really wanted to go for earthy tones anyway, but this combo. What ended up happening was I did the hat of this gnome, this wizard, in this colour, and I loved the colour scheme so much. I ended up doing the coat of another wizard in the same colour scheme, and this is kind of how it evolved. I wasn't planning on I wasn't planning on all three being completely different, but it kind of really worked out that they ended up all matching somehow, which is what I really liked. So here we see me going in with the brown and the burnt umber colour scheme on the coat of another gnome. And I just love the way, because they're all a little bit matched, they all tied in together. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. But listen, trust the process. I kept saying to myself, Claire, trust the process. These look absolutely shocking. Trust the process is all I kept saying to myself. So now I didn't want a Santa or a Gnomey red. I wanted a burgundy maroon darker wizardy red. So I just went in with my bright red and added some black to darken it up a bit. And again, I really loved the way this red turned out, so I did the same red on another wizard's hat. Do you know what I'm saying? So it kind of like evolved this way. It was kind of nice to just, have them all tied in. But yeah, at this point, I'm definitely calling it a rustic paint job, but the green here is a bright green mixed in with a black to make it darker, and I really love it. Now, the beards, I decided they all have to be white, maybe with a hint of grey, maybe with a hint of pale brown. So I just went in with some white paint, and the black under the hat was still wet at this point. So it just helped me drag that down in to make it grey. But hand on heart, I went back over these beards so many times because I wasn't happy. This was the end of the results of the paint job, and I am not loving it. I'm thinking they look like garden gnomes. So that night off camera, I thought, let me see if I can add a staff or a staff, depending on how you say it. And I loved it. I used some wooden barbecue skewers and I loved it. So here is what I did. I basically took the barbecue skewers. Luckily for me, they've got a point on them already. Now I only had 2 left, so I had to break one in half so that all 3 could have something. And then I took some air dry clay to make the hand. I rolled it into a ball, and then I shoved the barbecue skewer through the air dry clay ball. That's it, done. That's the hand. It kind of looks like a hand, right? In my head anyway. I hope you guys agree. Then you just need to make sure that sticks, because bear in mind, this is now the next day, everything's dried, and I really need that air dry clay to stick to the dried clay. So I really took my time to squish it down, shove it down behind, use my tools to really squish it up against the old clay is what I'm saying. And it really did work a treat. Then I decided they still look a little bit they don't look magic enough. They don't look magic. They need some bling. Glitter was suggested, and I would have loved to have done glitter, but I couldn't cope with the mess. I really couldn't. I decided, might as well go foil. I have some gold foil. So I painted everything that I wanted in gold foil. I painted gold. Instead of using glue, the paint does just as good a job. So here I am. I'm gold leafing everything. And this is one of those moments where I need someone to tell me to stop, because this has kind of got out of control. And I made this wizard's staff gold. And I also went on to add more gold to pretty much everything. So you just pat the gold on, wait for it to dry, come back half an hour later and brush off the excess. I'm not very good at waiting, so I tend to brush off the excess before it's ready. Now, the final gnome, I've got this tiny bit of stick left. I ended up having to use my craft knife to turn it into a sword type-esque thing. And yeah, now my third gnome's not going to get a hand. We're just going to shove it straight into the polystyrene. So we can call him No Hands Harry. His hands, he's too cold, so he's keeping his hands behind his coat. So we've got Huge Hands Hagrid and No Hands Harry. This is what I'm going with. At this point I thought, you know, the paint job already looks rustic. Let's make it even more wizardy, oldie worldy rustic. And that is what I did. I just took some gold acrylic paint, rubbed it on, rubbed it off, or dabbed it on like here. Got my hands, rubbed it all over, rubbed it around the rims, up and down the hat, just to give them all a hint of glamour, a hint of shimmer. I wanted some shimmer, and this is how I got it. The last thing for me to do really was to paint the hands. I wasn't sure if I was going to go completely in contrast, but I gave them kind of black stroke, black, purpley, reddy, goldy gloves, like magic gloves. And here's the results. I am obsessed. As you can see, the one on the left, I ended up going under his hat with the gold, even though I'd already painted it black. I just think the gold has made them. Honestly, at one point, I was like, no, I need to think of something else, because these are just garden gnomes. But now with the staffs and with the gold under the hat, and I even stuck some gold stars. Can you see them on the green hat in the middle? I stuck some gold stars on his hat, and on this one here, I stuck some on his cloak, and I love them. Again, that was a last minute thing just before I brought them downstairs, so it wasn't something I filmed, but they are gold sequins. I love them. Okay, the beards, I mean, I could work harder on the beards, but I love them. Let me know what you think at this point. I have to say, Big Hands Hagrid on the left is my favourite. That colour scheme, the burnt umber, the brown and the gold, oh my goodness me, it's rich. The one on the right, the jury is out for No Hands Harry. The one in the middle needs a name. So if you've made it this far, we're 1640 in. So if you've made it this far, the one in the middle needs a name. So yeah, help me out. I hope you've loved this as much as I have. I honestly, the whole process took 6 days to make these. Because of the clay drying in between. Again, you could do it all in one day, but I didn't have that time. And yeah, let me know your thoughts. And I just love them. I absolutely love them. And yeah, be sure to check out everyone else in the collaboration. YouTube videos will be linked below. Don't forget to head over to Instagram, check out that hashtag. And yeah, thank you so much if you have made it this far. I will see you all in the next video. And I'm just so excited because Halloween's over and that means Christmas is gonna start soon. So big apologies for that big drop at the end of the video, forgive me, but it's true. I'll see you soon. Bye.